how we support gifted and talented students, which will be presented by Ms. Priya and Ms. Priyanka from GEMS, our own Indian school.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Since we're a little bit spaced, would the ladies and gentlemen like to come in the front? Make this a little bit more personal. You can move up front, please, if you can come in front. Yeah. Welcome to the Talent Skills Innovation Framework. I'm Mrs. Ramapriya, Priya by everyone who knows me. I'm the talent coordinator for GEMS, our own Indian school, and my colleague is Ms. Priyanka. She is the school counselor and she's the head for special needs department in our school. The Talent Skill Innovation Framework. Now this is the baby or the innovations framework of the GEMS corporate office. What happened was we were given options to select a new and innovative idea or a new procedure to go with as per school, and GEMS, our own Indian school, chose Gifted and Talented as our innovation framework to support the GEMS Innovations platform. It works on the basic foundation that every child matters. What was the purpose? The purpose of this entire program was to share a workable framework that actively supports student opportunities and to develop and maximize gifted skills, academic or otherwise. Now at this juncture, next slide please, at this juncture I would like to make the difference between what is a gifted student and what is a talented student. A gifted student is one who is academically gifted. It is a particular identification of a child's strength in one or more subjects, which the child outshines. As we go through the presentation, you will see how I'd show these differences to you. And then a talented student will be one who is very talented in co-curricular activities. The policy, our gifted and talented policy that is now in frame in school is to embed a talent curriculum. That was the primary purpose, followed by provide for learning skills in all aspects of learning within the school, and ultimately a display of the enhanced work skills of these students. So basically this is kind of like in a nutshell what our policy contains. Next slide please. Before, I'm sure all of us have seen this in our classrooms. All of us are educators. All of us have seen children in our homes, even among brothers and sisters. Before I go further, can you escape please? And I have a small video clipping for you. And this video clipping, I hope, will give you an idea of how important what we do is.
みんなの心に浮かんだことをそのまま書けばいいんだからね。
All the child was asked to do was to draw his favorite animal. And that's it. Coming back to this slide, I hope this gives you an idea. And going further, next slide, please. we are dedicated to meeting the need. Now, this is a sort of a framework into how our gifted students are identified. We have a multi-level process built, and it's built on teamwork. Now, when I go through how we did our stepwise construction of our gifted program, you will come to know about this. But basically what happens is the first level of identification happens within the students themselves. A student knows their counterparts. They know their little secrets. They know what one person is good at, what one person is not so good at, and why someone is moody and why someone is upset. So we encourage a lot of peer recommendations. Like when we step into a class as an educator, we'll ask, can someone do this? And everyone is pointing, can this to one child or the other? That's the first sign of identification. The next one, of course, is the parent identification, which they say, we give a form out to say that what strengths your child has and what would you like us to help with, and the parent gives back a feedback. And all of these records, of course, get redirected to Priyanka, who is the counselor in consultation with the class teacher, not only of the present year, but several class teachers of the previous years as well, whether we have a consistency in the same reports. Now, the counselor will go through this, and she is an integral part of every stage. Nothing happens without her presence there. And once that happens, the sectional head is brought into the picture, the present class teacher is discussed, and now we go into the academics, whether the child is only displaying talent or is there a gifted sign with that procedure as well. And the subject teachers, of course, we have our grades and consistent performance and, you know, various projects submitted and evidences are collected. After that is done, we come to the core gifted and talented team. The gifted and talented team with Priyanka comprises of me and the senior SLT team in the school. And we also call in the sectional head, and we do a screening, we do the final screening and selection process over there. And that is your basic collection. Once that collection is done, then we distribute it into various categories. If we see a marked identification, we do have a very, very beautiful set of testing processes, which Priyanka will happily walk you through in just a few moments. Next slide, please. Step one of the identification, a little bit more detail for you there. Identification of talent, that includes the gifted, because when you go after talent, the other things come out. In schools, through various identification processes like parent nomination, teacher recommendation. Another very important thing, a teacher will pick up on these children, but they will also pick up on the very silent ones. And that's something I would discuss in a little while about the silent gifted, which we have to be a little bit aware of, and the senior management confirmation, which kind of validates our findings. Priyanka, the school counselor evaluation, you can, if you could walk us through that.
Thank you. So as ma'am just mentioned, the teachers, the subject teachers, as well as the art, music, and the dance teachers, if they feel that a child is gifted or talented in any way, they will come to me. If the parent feels that the child has potential, they will be referred to me by the parents as well. And then we have tests. For intelligence, we generally use the IQ test. If a child has 130 and above IQ, then we consider him to be gifted. 130 and above, the child is gifted. And we use the Wechsler's intelligence test and the standard Binet intelligence test as well. These are the most standardized tests which we use, and we ask the parents to go to an external psychologist, as a school counselor is not authorized to take tests. And once the reports are back, it is confirmed that yes, the child is gifted, and then I get in touch with Priya ma'am and the sectional or the department heads, for example, the science HOD or the maths HOD, and then we plan accordingly as to how we can bring them up and how we can challenge these students. Back to you.
Okay, we're kind of switching here. So, yeah. Please do not hesitate to ask us any questions at any stage if you might have. Step 3, please. Next slide. Thank you. Now, what happens after the identification? What happens after, okay, we've got the gifted, what do? We have in place a very active and successful gifted and talented advancement program. We call it the it's kind of like an accelerated program of a different style apart from the curriculum that they're doing, and we hold it twice weekly in our school, and it's part of the talent program. The gifted children come here, and we have two subjects running at present. We have mathematics as well as English running in at this time. We call it the talent program, but basically it focuses on enhancing the skills and the development sets of the gifted identified children. They are taken out of the curriculum of CBSE. It's a very, very informal kind of a setting, but with a very set purpose. The children feel comfortable. We deal with higher level of learning. We stimulate their intelligence. We encourage speaking and all those skills in English, as well as maths. Shortly, one of our proteges will be speaking to you. Her name is Alina, and she is one of the first identified gifted in the mathematics section. Development of the identification benchmarks for achievement and leveled enrichment programs, talent enrichment program, that is what we call our program right now. And once that is done, what we recommend for participating schools, we've done a few advisory sessions for other schools as well. What we really do recommend is a core teacher who has gone through the training of identification, and then they form the team within the school, and then the process begins. At GEMS, our own Indian school, the house masters and house mistresses are responsible for the talent identification. That is the co-curricular activities. Whereas the class teachers and the subject teachers are usually the ones who identify the gifted signs in the students' academic skills. Long term, we had a plan of establishing a strong development department, which is in the process already, and meeting the specific skills of students. Of course, we have already inculcated into our active curriculum what is known as differentiation and multiple level learning. We do that very, very actively and very intensively in the class. That also caters to multiple intelligences and levels of learning within the class. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, what's so different about these gifted children? Now, in a classroom of approximately 30, you will find some portion of that classroom being above average ability. Some of them may not be academically above average, but they'll be extremely creative. And then the other one, you will have your leaders and your organizers and your communicators, and they're committed to tasks. They may not be brilliant academically, but they're brilliant somewhere else. And what happens is, then there is that few that can do all three things. And that's where our antenna goes up. If a child can juggle all these three things at such a young age, then there is an ability there that has to be addressed. Next slide, please. What is within our school? Good all-rounders, sports, activities, academics, everything. They're on top. Yes, we need to identify them. High achievers in one area. Many teachers will find this in their classrooms. As classroom or homeroom teachers, you will find this. One subject, this child shines. Well, the other one is not so good. Why is this happening? And how can we help? And of course, you will have a child in your classroom answers every question on pat. It's like he can't be defeated. He'll ask you why. And he'll go ahead to ask you why not. And he will challenge you. But the minute something is on paper, it's gone for a toss. Why is that happening? And how can we help? Yes? Okay. Parallel identifiers for SEN. This is my colleague's baby, so I'm going to hand it over to her now. Yes.
As I head the SEN department, which is Special Educational Needs, there was a very common trend which me and the special educator found, that generally all the students that came to our room, they were good in one particular area. They were not particularly good in all the subjects, but they were particularly good in one area. So it can be history, it can be origami, or it can be singing or dancing. And that is when the project was very new, and Ramapriya ma'am had just come up with the Gifted and Talented program. And then we identified a 7-year-old child who had an IQ of 135. And we were very shocked, and we said, okay, he is brilliant. But then again, he has very bad writing skills. He does not complete his work. His behavior is very disruptive. He did not listen to any of his teachers. He used to hit the other students, but at the same time, he was gifted in maths. And that is when we did a bit of research, and we found out that this is referred to as dual or multiple exceptionalities. They're not only gifted, or they're not only SEN, but they're a mixture of both. They're a mixture of both. So they need special educational needs. They fall under the SEN category, as well as they're gifted. And this was researched by a researcher from the name of Nick. And he asked the teachers and the parent groups, can you visualize a gifted child? And they said, yeah, somebody who has a good IQ, somebody who is good in academics, or somebody who's good in sports. But nobody mentioned a child with disabilities. And that is when they started doing more research. And they found out that generally, students who have Asperger's syndrome, which falls under the autism spectrum, students who have ADD or ADHD, which is to do with attention and hyperactivity, somebody who has speech and language delay, somebody who has dyslexia, these 4 categories, they found out, also happen to be gifted in majority of the cases. I'm not saying all of these students who fall under SEN are gifted, but majority of the students, they fall under these 4 categories of the special needs. Then they found out there is also another group who have physical difficulties and sensory impairments. So you can be auditory and visually impaired, but at the same time you're gifted. That was about 5% of the population, and that also comes into this group of dual exceptionalities. As an educator, the most common things that you can identify for these type of students is they're very disruptive in class. Now, as educators, you'll feel, why are they not listening to the teacher? If they have an interest in maths, why isn't the child paying attention in class? It is because they already know what is being taught. So as a teacher, you need to challenge them. So they're just bored. It's like they know what 2 + 2 is. They want something more. So they constantly need food for thought. So as teachers, we need to give them something which is more challenging. When this was brought to our notice, as a SEN department, we said we will have individual educational plans. We will have a separate educational plan for these students. And during class, if the child becomes restless, we will give them worksheets which are a level above. And that kept the child occupied because they were challenged in the area which they actually like to do. And that is something which we in our school do.
So it's not about worksheets?
No, because for us, the students who we found to have dual exceptionalities was mostly to do with maths and English, and that is why these are the 2 programs that we are running in school at this point of time. But we are also focusing on talent as well, and that is when we introduced MAD, which is Music, Art and Dance, where we train students in their creative side as well.
Program for the English and math for gifted students. It's
Yeah.
not about giving them above-level worksheets.
No, this is just a classroom accommodation.
Many levels of which we do.
Exactly.
It's not just worksheets. They do a lot of project-based analysis. We take them out as well. They have a lot of challenging things to do. It's not just written work. It's very active. It's apart from the general curriculum.
This is
So,
this is just the classroom accommodation. So within the classroom, because the teacher has other 34 students to look at, the immediate remedy is, okay, give them something which they're interested in. Or sometimes keep a book, like one student loves science, anything to do with science. So we have kept a separate book for him in his magic box in the classroom. So when he is disturbing the class, what the teacher does is, she takes his magic box, asks him, okay, this is your magic box, just pick up a book and start reading. And those books are all of his interest. So these are just classroom accommodations. This is not part of the talent program. The other thing, we always involve parents, because without their help, And without their support, we are not able to achieve what we want to. And that is why it is very important to keep everybody in the loop so that everybody sings the same song and the child has equal learning from all sides. So it's a more holistic approach. And also we always celebrate success because students who fall under the SEN category as well as who are gifted, minor failures can cause major setbacks and they don't take criticism that easily. So we are planning to make them stronger, but then we are always on the lookout to celebrate their success and keep them happy. Okay, over to you.
Okay. So far, what has been our route map? It has been a success story all around. And we started with the PD presentations. We wanted our staff, our teachers, to become fully aware of this particular setup in the classroom, the possibility of these students, and we trained them on the identification process of the gifted and talented. What do you do to identify? This is where you get your silent gifted, you get your hidden gifted. You have the child who is in the corner of the class who's just not, participating, but then has an unbelievable ability to do something which will surprise you. And they're very introverted, they don't come out very often, they're very shy, maybe because of criticism that they've received previously. Many things, like Priyanka correctly said, these children don't take criticism very well, and we need to keep a very sharp eye out of that. So we first concentrated on PD presentations and CPD programs in our own school. We trained our own teachers, focusing on all 4 phases, even in the senior section right down to the KG section. Accommodations and best practices within the active classroom. Now, this was immediate. What we did was we started the multi-level learning, we introduced the Howard Gardner's process, we made them aware of multiple intelligences, and of course we established the differentiation program within our classrooms. We also organized workshops for ICT innovations, which is now very active in GEMS, our own Indian school, and innovative teaching strategies, which almost every other week there is some CPD program, some training, and that has been implemented in a very, very active way. So we are constantly stimulating our students as well as our teaching staff. ICT, that is the Student Advisory Group. We have advisors, student identifiers within the classroom who come and speak to us. Ma'am, please, can you just have a look at this girl? She does this very well. We have that little network going on. We've developed a grapevine, which is, very friendly and very open, so everyone's very confident about that. And of course, our very strong SLT advisory, which comprises of our principal and our headmistress and the sectional heads. Increased opportunities for students to display talents. I mean, you give them an opportunity and they blossom. So we've tried to, increase the creativity within projects within the classroom, increasing the activity levels within the classroom, as well as giving them external opportunities as well. In 2013-2014, the Challenge program, that is the extension program that we have that runs twice a week after school to challenge the gifted identified children, both in English and mathematics. Like my colleague correctly mentioned, these were the 2 areas that popped out of the general public right in the beginning. So we concentrated on this, but as I go further, next slide please, in 2014 and 15, the continued PD is, of course, continuing. Accommodations for tiered subject. Now, this one is a new thing we are looking into. The feasibility study is very actively going on right now. And what we want to do is tiered subjects structured within the curriculum. Now, whatever has been happening has been taken out of the curriculum not to disturb the processes of academics. But now we are thinking about having a parallel curriculum in mathematics called Advanced Math. Now, if that's a success, then we're going to be filtering it down to other subjects as well. ICT, again, that continues, and yes, it's growing very strongly, and it's a very active department. And of course, the regular challenge program for the gifted is happening in GEMS, our own Indian school.
In the same, let's say, period, some of the students will take the advanced
I don't know how it works, ma'am, in some schools, but in our school, what happens is we have multiple language options for all grades from grade 5 up. So what happens with multiple option languages is that the timetable is scheduling like that, so the children move around and they go to their optional languages. So that also, we are now doing a feasibility study whether that can be done for mathematics. Because when we have an ordinary maths class, maybe the advanced students can go to advanced math. And that they will be tested on that level, not on this level. And yes, of course, they earn their grades the same way. Long term, of course, it's happily going on, so we are ready. What we are planning to do is, if the math feasibility study comes through, now we are filtering and seeing how we can expand the talent program, the challenge program as we call it. We want to look into other subjects as well. English and maths has been a huge success. Now we're filtering and doing a feasibility studies to extending it into other subjects as well. Next slide, please. Yes. Yes.
And you said you shifted it to the outstanding with a different class.
No, they're not shifted into another
Is there
class.
any extra promotions are there for that child?
That we have not. We are still doing that feasibility study.
The
Yes.
child for grade 6.
Yes.
He is as capable as grade 7.
Yes.
So is there a promotional policy there you can send in grade
Not
7?
right now. Not right now. No. But what we do is we do give them enhanced level of working, and they are graded on that level. See, what we have in our school is something called formative. No, the jump steps are not there. No.
Because he is gifted.
Yes, yes, it is. But what we do have is something called formative assessments. Now, when we do formative assessments, we assess the child based on the ability of the child. It is not based on the ability of the requirement of the class. It's based on the ability of the requirement of the child. So when we do the differentiation in class, we have what is known as the higher level learners, we have the mid-level learners, and of course we have the lower level learners. Now when we assess the higher level learners, we are assessing them at a gifted level. And that grading will happen accordingly. Not all high, not all. But they will be challenged, one step higher than the higher level learners. We are differentiating that way. All right? We have not inculcated it into the active curriculum. That's what I said, it's under the feasibility study. So right now, the gifted do fall under the higher level learner category for assessment purposes. The gifted, as identified as individuals, will be put into the challenge program. Right? There they go completely different. See, basically, I'm an English professional. So what I do is, in our program, in the subjects, we don't have Shakespeare. But my gifted children are putting up dramas. They're reinventing Shakespeare, right? That's just one of the things that we do. They are publishing already. We give them opportunities to publish. We give them opportunities to do perhaps video interviews, things that they don't normally do. And therefore they feel very gratified that they're doing something at a very higher level. And then we get them involved very actively in ICT. And that's setting up their own websites or doing a travelogue online, or a blog. So these things they don't do normally within the curriculum, so we challenge them there. But like I said, curriculum purposes, we are doing a very intensive feasibility study for that. Some of the examples, everyone is ICT oriented here. Yes, of course. This is our world. Yes? Yes.
What jumping the classes? One is gifted as identified in only 2 subject areas, either maths or English. So as per the curriculum need, the child should have a level attained in all the subjects. Only then he can jump to another class.
No, but
Second is if you want to jump a
yeah.
class, that is double promotion that we call it. Yes. For that you need permission from either CBSE and also from PHDA. You cannot, as per the age
Yeah, yeah.
criteria, you cannot jump the child to another class.
Yeah.
The PhDA or CBSE would not have a problem. There are students in India who are doing CBSE in the age of 10 or so. So the system is starting in between the gifted children receiving the
That's why that's why, thank you, ma'am, for your information. Thank you so much. That's why we have accommodated them the best way we can right now. Because it's a process, you see. And we are pretty new as far as, we're about a year and a half old now. And we can't really, interrupt the curriculum process of it. That's why I said it's still under the feasibility study, and it's one of the long-term plans. Yes? And like ma'am correctly said, we are in talks and seeing how we can figure it out. So let's see. I'm going to give the mic to my protege. She's Alina. Alina, could you talk to them about what really happens in our world?
Good afternoon. I'm going to tell you something very interesting about our talent program. But first of all, I'd like to acquaint you with my interests. I have a lot of interest in astronomy. People find it most Bromeric. Many of them, my friends, they get irritated when I speak about astronomy, about quasars, blazars, Seyferts, planets, heliocentrism, the Big Bang theory, the Big Rip theory, and the latest theory of the smoking gun, and the multiverse theory, and things of the like. But the fact is, our school teaches us cross-curricular linking. And for that, we have specially appointed prefects called subject prefects. And last year, that is the academic year, which ended in March this year, I was appointed the math prefect of GEMS Our Own Indian. And for the Maths Challenge program, I took a workshop. It was a student-oriented workshop called Maths in Space. And we found a cross-curricular link between maths and astronomy. And children, they used to think that the maths that they have in their textbooks, where they find the volume of a cone, of an ice cream cone, or the volume of the cream that they eat, and different Bromeric things, they use the same maths to find the volume of an entire planet. They used it for finding the volume and the density and the mass of a neutron star. So the fact is, when children work for children, it becomes more interesting. And similarly, we had Maths in Space Season 2. And again, we had gifted and talented students of grades 5 to 8. And their levels were exceedingly high. But then, these two were really small events. When I was in grade 10, we had a workshop called Math Centrism. Just like our solar system is heliocentric, with the sun in the center and the planets revolving around it, we had a maths workshop with maths in the center, and all the children learning maths in terms of astronomy. And these were children aged maybe 13 to 16 from grades 9 and 10. And you should have seen, if I give them the rotational period of a planet and the revolution, the time taken for a revolution, it took them just seconds to calculate the duration of a day. And these children, some children from the Maths Challenge program were promoted to this category, as well as somebody had just said, whether we give more opportunities. So they were actually introduced to higher level maths of grade 10. So that was the workshop of Math Centrism, and these are some pictures from it. And it was an IT-oriented program, and we used many applications such as Star Chart and NASA News Tracker and different astronomy-based things. And that is all about math centrism. Thank you.
Yes, and as you can see, she's quite strong on the vocabulary as well. So, yes. Just to make things a little bit more interesting, you can check your IQs as well, and your gifted scale. Priyanka, would you like to walk them through this, please?
I would just like to say that this is not a standardized version of the test. This is just for fun. This is just for you to, if you're starting a gifted and talented program. These were some of the resources which we went through before we developed and planned our own program. So I hope you do realize that these tests are just for fun and not to be taken seriously. So, yeah.
Yes. What is the ideal age to identify gifted and talented students?
Basically, there is no ideal age. Like, for
if you-
example, the child, the 7-year-old that we identified.
Actually, a child aged 3 years old can be diagnosed with autism. And generally, these students who fall under the autistic spectrum are said to be gifted. So it can be at any point of time.
Any point of time. That's why we as educators have to be very sharp and watch for the signs. Because, it's not the world we grew up in. It's very different from what we know as education or what we have experienced in our own lifetime. So that's why we stress that, yes.
So what about the budget and the cost?
Sorry,
Budget and the cost for such programs? Do they cost?
that is according to school-wise.
Oh. Because usually most of the school they face like a problem in creating a section for gifted and talented students with the budget itself, and
That you will have to take up with your school
we can do it with
institutions.
much simpler things, right? For the gifted and
That's
talented.
how you, if you want to meet us on a personal level, of
Yeah.
course, definitely we can help you. Any other questions? We'll be happy to
You had something for gifted, how about talented?
Talent,
Okay,
all
okay.
right. Very interesting you should ask that, because we have our annual prize day coming up, which is a very, very big thing in GEMS, our own Indian school. And that's a platform for children to expose their talents, as in their singing and dancing skills. And then, of course, we have the housemasters and housemistresses. We have a packed calendar every year, and that goes from Islamic studies to Arabic to language studies to French, and we even encourage something called, yes.
One of our students, Lakshmi, she had also gone to one very popular program, Jhalak Dikhlaja in India, and she was also performing on stage. So she was given that opportunity because she's a brilliant dancer. And
Yes, and we have children. Where was I? I lost my track. So we do give our calendars packed. We have our assemblies, we have our sectional assemblies, which have ample opportunities for children to display their talents. Now, like I previously said, we have kind of targeted the house masters and house mistresses because they become the target. Ma'am, I want to do this and I want to do that. So they take down these things, and we get a cyclic report about which child has joined the plethora of children and which child has reinvented herself, that kind of stuff. So yes, we do have a very cyclic but very regular update on what's happening with the talent program as well.
Do you have enrichment program for them, the way you have for your math and your English?
For English, for talent? Yes, but just giving opportunities, basically. We have after-school extension programs. We have swimming skills. We have games. We have chess. We have, what else do we have? We have filmmaking, photography, a variety of stuff which comes in a cyclic thing that children just pick up. And then whenever there is activities that are announced, we immediately, go and announce it in Canvas, and we're kind of troopers rather in our school, and we kind of push it because it's so humbling to see, what these children can do at such a young age. And one can't help but think, if I had something like that when I was a child, would I be here? Would I be doing what I'm doing? The answer is probably no. The answer is definitely, 90% you will say, most probably not. But it is our responsibility to do that for our children. Yes? And of course, we love educating our parents. We have regular parent-teacher confirmation, conferencing. So that's a very good way to, ask the holistic thing about parental support, what happens as well. Any other questions? Yes.
Just ask, you may have mentioned it, but I may have slipped or not have.
Please,
attended.
anyway.
So the gifted and talented. Actually, I'm just going to focus on gifted. So is there a withdrawal system from the classroom for these children, or are they
No.
supported in class and through the?
They are
after-school
supported
activity?
in class through differentiation
Okay, and after school you said is activities.
and after-school activities. We do not pull them out of class because we find that very disruptive. We don't want to do that right now. That's why we are looking into the feasibility studies of an advanced program, so that they can do that. Personally, I know that because I myself am an advanced English student, and I did that in my school. When parallel normal English or general English was going on, I was doing something else. Yes, I was doing something else. So it is a workable thing, but we are still in the feasibility study. Yes? You're very welcome. Is that everyone's okay? Please find tiny little papers on your chairs. Those are for takeaway. Those are for just reference material and websites that you can see at some point. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I would like to thank
Priya.
Priya and Ms. Priyanka
Priyanka.
for her interesting session and to present them with those two beautiful books.
Thank you very much. Thank you.